Hello everybody, it's CapCorgi here. I wanted to talk about a game that I really enjoy, and it's something I don't really cover much on this channel. I have made some videos on Tarkov, and I'm a big fan of the game. It's actually I would say my favorite shooter right now. You know, they had a major crazy wipe. It's called a hardcore wipe, and wanted to give my thoughts on it. Now, I'm somewhat of a very different person who plays Tarkov than probably like 90% of the streamers you see out there. Now, 90% of the streamers you see out there, they play nothing but Tarkov, or they're huge FPS Andes, that, like, you know, no shame on that. I mean, like, you know, they're great creators, like Pestily or whatever. They play nothing but shooters, and they're really good at these games, and they've been playing Tarkov for like 10 freaking years or whatever. So, that's most of the players of Tarkov of the streamer variety. I'm not one of those. So first, let me give you my little history playing Tarkov, and let me tell you why I have maybe a unique perspective on what Tarkov is, and why I think that the hardcore wipe was a tale of two Tarkovs, and kind of just design decisions clashing upon each other. And the reason I want to make this video is because I just did the hardcore wipe survey in game. Unfortunately, I was doing it, like, you know, during work. I usually get on during work for like a scav run or whatever. And I saw the survey and I was like, oh, let me do this. And then I was like, wait, oh crap, I should have recorded it so I can at least get the questions. I looked everywhere online for all the questions of the hardcore wipe survey, and I couldn't find them. So I don't know why BSG makes this so obfuscated, why they won't just like at least show the questions or whatever so they can get more feedback. I don't know. Again, BSG does some things really, really well and some things completely backwards. Anyways, let's get into it. First of all, who is CapCorgi in terms of Tarkov? I'm a variety streamer. I've been streaming for about 6 years. I play full variety, so every single type of game genre. And one of my favorite game genres is survival. So I didn't come into Tarkov as a shooter player. I played shooters. I love shooters. I was really good at Halo 2. So I'm, you know, an unk, as the saying goes. But, you know, I was really good at, like, CS Source or whatever. But I'm not really, like, you know, someone who plays every COD on release. I'm not someone who played every Battlefield on release. Though I did play, like, you know, the original Battlefields quite a bit. Battlefields 1 through 3. Let me turn the music down a little bit. The Tarkov music is such a banger. It's like one of the really, really cool parts of Tarkov. So as a result, you know, I play a lot of, like, you know, survival games, and that is what brought me into Tarkov. Several years ago, my friends were like, this is a shooter, but it's kind of like a survival and almost has some RPG mechanics as well. And I was like, all right, let me check it out. And funnily enough, they were telling me to play it for the last 7 years. I only started Tarkov about 3.5 years ago, so I started really late. You know, I'm probably one of the more newer players, and I've never gotten Kappa. So if you're expecting someone like, you know, any of the greats out there, Aqua FPS or Sheaf or, you know, Pestily or whatever, someone like that, I'm not one of those guys. I'm a casual player, and that's one reason I think that my perspective will be decent here, because I'm what I think most of the player base is. Most of the player base, and I mean like numbers-wise, not longevity-wise, are the people who play Tarkov at the very beginning of the wipe. They play it like heavily for the first month. They start to drop off after month 1. And then by month 3, only the hardcore players are playing. I'm not one of those that are playing at the end of the wipe. So, I mean, I'll hop on for, like, you know, a few raids here and there, but generally, like, I'll play my heaviest, just like most people do, at the very beginning, first 2 months of the wipe, and really enjoy myself. And I've done this perennially for, like, sorry, not perennially, annually, since I started playing about 3.5 years ago. So I've played through many different genres of Tarkov. I've played through, you know, all of the... I think I started, like, the wipe before Streets. The original Streets map released. So the baby Streets, the half Streets. I started, I think, like, about a year before that. And so that's about when I started. I don't exactly remember which year that was. But I think it might have been, like, late 2021 or early 2022. I can't exactly remember. Either way, so I've seen, iteration after iteration of Tarkov over the past 3.5 years, and I played it pretty heavily. I don't stream it that much, I don't make that many YouTube videos about it, but I do love the game a lot, and I really like the hardcore aspects of the game. That's what keeps me coming back. And one thing I like about Tarkov, as someone who comes into the game as a survival player, and not a player of, typical FPSs. I'm not typically an FPS guy, at least not anymore, is the fact that you can tactically think your way through the game. You can play it as a slower paced game. Sure, clicking on heads will win you fights, and that's why I don't win, like, all the fights. But, playing with a brain will actually make a much bigger difference. It's one of the only shooters where this is how it works, which is really, really cool for me. And also, I love the lore of the game. All these other aspects, the world building, the lore, the environmental storytelling, the items, the looting, the RPG mechanics of the hideout, your character, leveling up the character, so on and so forth. These things I love. And losing your items, the hardcore, aspect of Tarkov, where it's the extraction feel, where it's the best extraction feel, where when you die, you lose your stuff. I think that is super cool, and that's what keeps me coming back to Tarkov. That's the vision I believe in. Now, all that aside, that's my history of playing Tarkov, so I wanted to give you some aspects of... also, how many hours did I play Tarkov? I probably played Tarkov like 1,000 hours over the past, several years, all combined. I played it quite heavily, but, heavily, but also in a casual way. Like, I don't play to get Kappa, I don't play to kill bosses, I don't play to do those things. I kind of play to loot around, I kind of play to, like, meet people in VoIP, I kind of play to, learn the maps, I kind of play to not look the quests up online and try to, like, figure it out on my own. Kind of like you would, like, an open world RPG or something, and, or like a survival game. And that's like the magic for me, and I've not learned every quest as a result, but like I think that's pretty cool, and the fact that you can do that. And yes, I am holding myself back by doing that. I don't mind, but that's the beauty of Tarkov. You can do that, and with my 60% survival rate, playing in the slow, methodical way that I do, and night raids, using NVG goggles, focusing on quests, not chasing down every shot, moving slowly throughout the map, things like that. I'm able to have a very high survival rate and succeed against people who are like, the very quick reflexed Twitch bros that can, like, get a headshot at 100 meters with, like, not even a second thought using metagear. And I also like not using metagear, so it's all a lot of fun for me. Anyways, that's my history of Tarkov. But now we're getting back into the real meat and potatoes, the hardcore wipe. Now, I think the hardcore wipe was released too quickly and too early and without real thought, which is why we have so many issues of two design feels and decisions going into the hardcore wipe. Now, what I think BSG and Nikita are trying to do, and I've actually paid a lot of attention to Nikita's posts, to the posts and history of Tarkov itself. From the very beginning, there's documentaries about how Tarkov started and everything like that, and I've looked those up because I genuinely love the game, and I genuinely love, like, the direction of the game and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. So I think a lot of the things that they're trying in the Tarkov hardcore wipe, not everything, but a lot of things, are trying to bring it back to their original vision. So these are things like, disabling the flea market. The flea market was, I don't think, really ever supposed to truly be a thing, but they added it in later on, and, they kind of expanded it, and, now it's become a major part of the game. But, lowering the loot amounts and so on and so forth, these were like things that were in the original vision of Tarkov. You want to go into raids to be able to get things. Everything's a scramble. You have to scrounge. You're not carrying level 6 armor and meta guns, all the live long day. Increased AI difficulty is a big part of it, and having barters be important, and so on and so forth. These are very strategic design decisions to make the game very hardcore, make it very experiential, make it something that you have incremental increases in. And I like that. I think that is one half of design decisions. Then the other half of the design decisions are, basically forcing you into gameplay patterns that didn't really make sense. In the hardcore wipe, we had, at the very beginning, no quests at all for any quests at all for the first, I think, what is it, like day and a half or something, and they only, I think, put it in reactively because the player base was like, running around with like chickens with their heads cut off, and they didn't really know what to do. People were just like getting into fights over random things, and it was kind of like very listless gameplay. And it didn't feel very good. It didn't feel very good for people that were like, hardcore players. It didn't feel very good for players that were like me, that were very casual players. It didn't feel good for, obviously, questers. Also, that is one thing I am. And it didn't feel really good for anyone that was trying to really get progression. It kind of only felt good for, like, the COD bro Andes that wanted to get into fights and scraps every second of every wipe. Every raid. And, because they could just W key in all the livelong day. So those people really, really enjoyed it. Totally fair. But that is antithetical to what hardcore should have been. This slow progression and things like that. Now, the other major change that they were trying to push in terms of gameplay pattern, until, we forced them back on it because, community feedback, was the transitions. And transitions is actually something that I think they really do want to make for the 1.0 release. So that's why one reason they're pushing it. The problem is when they're pushing it, it's kind of just broken. And it has always been broken. So, it increases the raid timer. So if you're trying to, for example, start at ground zero and you're going all the way to terminal, they had an event where you did this. It took like hours and hours and hours. And, it's not even like don't die. It is much more like, kind of like a marathon. And I think that's what the quest was called. But it was like, it felt like an actual marathon because of just sheer time. And you had to be lucky that you didn't disconnect the middle. You had to be lucky that you didn't run to a cheater across every single map. All of these things, which were like, a confluence of events which doesn't really lead to good gameplay. It doesn't really lead to an interesting gameplay experience. It's like a slog as opposed to, a fun marathon to run or something like that. It just didn't feel good. And but the other part of it is that transitions have always been broken in terms of not only the time it takes to get into raid and get through raids, but also when you get to a transition from one map to the other, you're spawning with, like, I play solo. That's another big difference. I don't play in any groups. I play literally 80%, 90% of the time solo completely. As a solo, I would run into and be sandwiched between two groups of 3 people. And we're spawning in the exact same place. Absolutely, completely misdesigned system. And it, if they're really pushing for the 1.0 release to really push transitions, and I think they are, they've really, really been saying that. They've a lot of their design decisions are kind of stating that and everything like that. The transitions have never been working, and I think they really, really need to put like all of their dev power into fixing transitions if they're going to make us do it. So we suffered through forced transitions for like an entire week and a half, I think, right? Or something. It was quite a bit of time that we were just completely stuck doing nothing but transitions, or we're just running customs, factory, and what's it called? Ground Zero. And that was it. And that was complete and utter dog, in my opinion. Like, literally one of the worst designed decisions in the game for the hardcore wipe. And people were spamming Tarkov posts, Nikita posts, ESG posts, the entire time saying, don't force transitions. We are okay with every single other option that you're telling us. Limited traders, secure item restrictions, rare loot, all of these things we are fine with. In fact, make some of them more hardcore. We're totally fine with that. But don't force this broken system on us, man. At least, if you want us to use the transition once to unlock the next map, we could do that, because that'll give you some form of progression. That would have been really, really cool. as opposed to, forcing it every single time. You have a quest on you have a quest on reserve. Good luck. You're gonna have to go through 3 freaking maps, not get sandwiched between, multiple people spawning in the same place. You can't run into a cheater, because if you do, you're dead. It's just all kinds of craziness. And it was just a terrible design decision. And so I'm really, really glad they took that out, but it took them forever. And but this shows that the hardcore wipe should not have had forced transitions, and everyone knew it except BSG, and it completely ruined the entire first week and a half of an otherwise very interesting idea. Anyways, besides that, it's not all doom and gloom. The audio is better than ever. Honestly, I think a lot of the other changes were really, really cool. They made bleeds a lot more deadly, but you can no longer keep meds in your secure container up your bum. So anytime you killed a player or a player scav or whatever, you would find actual meds, because otherwise, for normal wipes, people would be putting them in the secure container the entire time, and you would kill a player, get through all the rigmarole of throwing grenades, whatever, finally getting them down, and then you're stuck with a heavy bleed, and there's nothing left. They didn't have the heavy bleed bandages in their on their character. They had it in their secure container via Grizzly or whatever. Thankfully, that was a really cool idea. That was good design decisions. Now, there was some ideas that they had, but they never really followed through. I know I'm jumping from thing to thing. I do apologize, but there's a lot to talk about with the hardcore wipe, and I liked half of it. I think that's the big thing. I liked half of the ideas in the hardcore wipe a lot, and then the other half of the ideas were just dude, what are you doing, man? So the other really cool thing about the hardcore wipe that I really liked, and I actually would have liked to see last longer, was the limited traders. Having traders stuck at level 1 for a very long time was actually really cool. Now, the downside was that they could have made it actually super cool by, also they did this with the, it's harder to upgrade your hideout. So they've doubled the items needed and so on and so forth. So these two design decisions work really well together. You can't breeze your way to level 3 traders by just grinding out the game and doing all those things and then, get meta gear really, really fast. So that was like the design philosophy, and these were the decisions leading to that design philosophy. So they did certain things that went with it, and then they did a couple of things that broke it. So we'll talk about the things that went well first. The thing that went well first for it was that they like I said, locked traders at level 1, and this is after they introduced quests, which took way too long, but thankfully they finally did it. And the problem was that they should have updated barters, because one thing that I ran into was, as soon as you're playing Tarkov and you're getting through various parts of Tarkov, let me get to some gameplay, you're having a lot of fun looking for items that you would normally not pick up. You're finally picking up a paid, because a paid turns into a Salewa via a barter. And Salewa is a really good med for early game. And so this is a really good design decision, making barters super worth it, and making you really, focus on trying to do things to get, interesting barter items so you can get progression via barter. Now, you have the progression via barter where you can get, pretty decent high-powered items at a, really negligible cost if you look for the right stuff. For example, 5 light bulbs turns into a pretty good Glock. Things like that. These are really interesting ideas, and they work really well. The downfall of it was that they didn't update the barters. So you had certain barters that were very, very useful, and I love that. But what they should have done is go all in and, completely lock the traders at level 1 or level 2 if they really wanted to push it. But having level 3 traders now kind of just negates the entire purpose of the trader lock, absolutely, utterly. There's no point in locking the traders at all now, because everyone who is like, a meta sweat has already gone to level 3 traders. They're unlocking them really fast, even with the higher amount of money needed for traders and so on and so forth. And we've fallen into the huge dichotomy of, meta sweats having really good gear and non-meta sweats, having absolute dog water gear. And it's just like, 2 tiers of players all over again, which is kind of one thing that they were trying to avoid. Now, the really other good thing about hardcore is, what is a hardcore wipe in general? What does hardcore mean in any game? Hardcore in any game means high risk, high reward, and also basically when you die, it's a big serious hit. Now, Tarkov has always had, when you die, it's a big serious hit, but in hardcore it's a lot worse because, as in like a lot more hardcore, for lack of a better term, because you couldn't put things into your secure container that you normally could. You couldn't put meds in there anymore. You couldn't put money in there anymore. You couldn't put ammo in there anymore. This is from pre-hardcore. This is just an example. I could put all of these meds, my, good ammo. Well, this is like day 1 of the wipe, last wipe. So it's like, good at the time. You could do all these things and really be able to, negate your risk quite a bit with your secure container. And they took that out, which is really nice. And they kind of forced you to think about things like barters, to think about things like, what you can actually take with you, what you can't, buying a rig, not being able to insure everything. These are good design decisions that made the game more hardcore. The downfall was, like I said, if they made the barters more interesting, if they added more barters, if they did these things, they would give us more things to think about, more things to learn in a hardcore wipe, which is, I think, what they should have done. I think it was a missed opportunity. Now, I'm not like lambasting BSG for this. This is just like, them trying to figure this out. This is the first time they did something like this. So I give them props for trying. And I think, like, hopefully they'll be able to figure that out and say, like, okay, here's what we can do to make the hardcore wipe much more interesting if they're going to go in a more hardcore direction for 1.0 release. Because I think a lot of these hardcore changes are preparing for the 1.0 release. I think they want to do and implement a lot of these things in 1.0. I don't know if that's the case, but I really do think so. Now, beyond that, let's go to the next thing. One of the big, huge problems, and this has been a problem since Arena was added in. You disable Flea Market to make gear harder to get and more worth it. However, you have Arena, and you have, by extension, Ref, to make super meta gear super easy to get just by playing Arena. And so what they did was they basically forced every player, if you want free money by like millions of rubles a day, if you want like, meta gear with vortexes and razor vortexes and, the best scopes in the game and everything like that on the cheap, you have to play Arena. Now, most of the player base, and I think BSG needs to hear this, we don't want to play Arena. If you wanted to play Arena, let us play Arena, have the COD bros go in. I think one of the best, portions of the wipe, of any wipe that I've ever played was when Arena was introduced. Because all the COD bros, all the W-Key Giga Chads went to play Arena. And I could play Tarkov in my survival game, essentially, in peace, with other people who wanted to play the game like, the hardcore survival game, in my opinion, it should be. And so that was great. However, then they added the crossplay where you could bring over money and gear and skills and so on and so forth from Arena to the main game. And this is a design philosophy that I've hated since the beginning, and I think is a pretty common thing. Most players who play Tarkov want to play Escape from Tarkov. We don't want to play Escape from Tarkov Arena. We don't want to be shoehorned into it, and we don't want a hardcore wipe and the, the sanctity of rare gear and the sanctity of, hard to get money and so on and so forth to be absolutely ruined by just playing an hour of Arena. And so when they added that in, the hardcore wipe ceased to be a hardcore wipe. Now everyone is running around, if they play Arena, with Arena gear. And everyone else who's not, like me, and I would say most players actually are not running around with the Arena gear, they just get, rolled over by by strong armor, because, you know, ref at level 2 is like infinitely stronger than probably Peacekeeper, Ragman, Prapor, Mechanic at level 3. And it's just such a dichotomy that it's, I think that and the transitions and 100% boss spawns, that was the big issue. And 100% boss spawns, we'll go to that one really fast. This didn't have to be a bad idea. It ended up being a bad idea because everyone just rushed bosses and got really good gear and was running around with level 6 plates if they were good enough to kill bosses. And if you weren't, then you had, you know, dog water and you had early wipe gear. That's a big problem, because that, like I said, 2-tier system. It creates a 2-tier, you know, economy for Tarkov players. You are either a Giga Chad who's able to kill, Killa, get a level 6 mask at the very beginning of the wipe, and, you know, be able to farm him with 100% boss spawn, because you know he's going to farm, you know he's going to show up, he's going to have the exact same gear almost every single time, and that's the big L. What they could have done is, if they wanted 100% boss spawn to have players die to the bosses, I understand that. What they should have done is make a very low percentage chance for the meta gear to spawn on the bosses. Still have the bosses spawn, but have it only be a 10% chance it would be good gear. So now it's a very high risk and you know, quite a bit lower of a reward chance to be able to fight the boss, kill the boss, get the good boss gear. And if you did, you could get a huge jackpot. But if you didn't, then you weren't like completely shafted, because the really good gear is much more rare now. And I think, like, if they do another hardcore wipe, or if they make, you know, 1.0 very hardcore-esque, this is what they should do. Like, if you want 100% boss spawn, because bosses will farm players early game, and, you know, when most of the people playing early wipe are absolute like goofballs, and, you know, casual players like me, we're getting like completely decimated by the bosses. It was really funny because, you know, scavving on factory was like the only way to get, you know, easily into a scav map. You could get there much faster, and so on and so forth. I would just walk to like the offices and immediately die, because the boss is always there. And if the boss is dead, you're seeing just piles of bodies in the hallway from everyone who tried to kill the boss, or, you know, player scavs like me who walked into the boss area and we just got absolutely dunked on by Killa, which it was really funny. So like, that showed me this might have been what BSG was trying to do. Have 100% boss spawns to, you know, kill players a lot and make that really hardcore. Make, like, you know, players die a lot. Totally fine with that part. But having them have extremely high tier gear, so anyone who's a good player, who's a Tarkov Andy who plays the game like 50,000 hours, they can, you know, they know all the tricks, they know how to use the grenades, they know how to, you know, use the angles, they know every single map and every single angle to be able to, you know, kill the boss with very negligible risk, or, you know, relatively negligible risk, and you know, they just basically had free farm, and you know, massive loot disparity happened on day 2. Huge L. And then they, you know, reduced the bosses, which was fine, but they didn't really have to do that. They just had to reduce the gear on the bosses. So if they do this again, reduce the gear on the bosses. So huge discrepancy here. Now, anything else that I wanted to really cover? Oh, this was a big W. Reducing experience for killing enemies and dying. So if you're W keying in, you're playing extremely, like, high risk, you're going in just to farm players, you're going in not really caring about your health, you're going in with just a pistol, you're going to die, blah blah, whatever. You didn't get much experience for that at all. You actually got extremely small amounts, much less than usual. I don't mind that. That's very hardcore. I like that. And then they increased experience for surviving rates. Huge W. Like, it gave you a reason to not take fights all the time. It gave you a reason to play a little bit more methodically. It gave you a reason to think about risk versus reward. I loved that aspect of the game. Absolute huge W. And, you know, all of the loot stuff, like I said, what they should have done is that, you know, making loot rare on locations led to like some really, missed opportunities where items that were, in locked rooms and stuff, they were just like, absolutely not worth it. So that was a big problem. What they should have done is make loot less rare, but only found in raid. And so everyone is going around to high spawn loot locations and things like that and really scrambling for gear. And it's kind of like a you keep what you kill version of Tarkov. You're really looking for player loot. You're really looking for loot on like high, mob density areas of the map. Places that are actually very, very aggressive. The bunkers on reserve, the boss areas on streets, and so on and so forth. Those would be high loot areas. But they keep ref out of the deal, so you don't get free metagear. They keep the traders at level 1, level 2. They change quests around so you can still do the quests. What they did was they locked the quests to trader level, and then they, the entire community started crying, oh, we can't do this quest because it requires, Ragman level 2, and Ragman is only stuck at level 1 right now. What they should have done is taken out that requirement so you can at least progress in the quest line without having to have level 2 quests for level 2 for the for all the traders. And instead, they rushed out the trader changes, and now everyone is at level 3 traders. Everyone's running around with much stronger gear now, and we're just kind of in like what amounts to pretty much a normal wipe again. So, what was the point of hardcore? There was no point to hardcore at this point. That's the problem. Like I said, Tale of Two wipes. The first part of the wipe, when quests were added in, started to get really, really fun. In fact, probably some of the most fun I've ever played in Tarkov in years. Genuinely, like at least in the past year and a half, I really, really enjoyed the beginning of this wipe, except for the no quests. The no quests and the forced transitions, those need to be thrown out as ideas. Like, absolutely take them out. Never bring those ideas back. Please, just burn those ideas to the ground. But, having incredibly rare loot, having, loot mean a lot. They basically made it so, meds mattered more, bleeds mattered more, food and water mattered more. But they increased the food and water spawns. And they increased keys, static keys. This was really, really cool. They should really go in this decision a lot more. If they want to have disabled flee forever, I would be okay. Because I think disabling the flee makes it so there's less cheaters, in my opinion. Like, I didn't know if this would happen or not, but I actually don't mind this. But if they have to do this in tandem with, like, not making bosses super easy to farm and, like, 100% chance with super, super strong gear. Not making freaking refs so easy and well above every single other trader in the game. Because it just completely ruins the balance of the game. I absolutely hate ref, dude. I don't know. Am I alone in this? If I am, let me know. Because, like, I absolutely despise ref. I think he's unbalanced every single wipe. As soon as he's available, everyone rushes ref, everyone gets meta gear, and the wipe is done. It's just every single fucking wipe. I hate it, and I really hope they fix that. But, as a design decision, I really liked, the very beginning of the hardcore wipe. Because, everyone was running around with dog shit gear. Everyone was shooting each other with dog shit gear. Everyone was scrambling for, like, single grenade. Things like that. Like, grenades are super rare early wipe. I think those ideas were very, very cool. But what I would like to see is, less rare loot on locations. Like, more rare loot on locations. So you have a reason to go out and get loot. As opposed to focusing on things like ref, as opposed to focusing on things like flea market. So the good loot on locations in very dangerous areas even increase the AI spawns, make them even more crazy. Like at the end of last wipe, when you're like seeing them come out of the ground and stuff, it feels like, because there's so many AI and everything like that. I loved that. I thought that was really cool. They should put that, in my opinion, in tandem with the increased AI difficulty and the reduced experience for killing enemies and the increased experience for surviving raid. You want to survive. You want to avoid enemies. Like, this is what I want Tarkov to be like. I really do. I think that would be a really, really cool thing and make the game super fucking hardcore. And but again, this would be an antithesis to what BSG is trying to do with pushing Arena. And I think pushing Arena has been like probably the worst decision in general. That and transitions. So those are my thoughts. Just wanted to give them to you guys, and I really do hope that they think about these things, because I think, and I hope you guys like understand, I'm only saying this and being, I guess, quite a bit harsher in my opinions and quite a bit more clear on my opinions, as opposed to a lot of other content creators, because I really do see the writing on the wall, and I think BSG is pushing all of these changes and all these hardcore feel and everything like that for the 1.0 release. There's a reason they're doing this, and because when 1.0 happens, I feel like we're going to have to go through the transitions, and the transitions are broken, so that fucking sucks. But I really do think that there's not going to be a flea market, perhaps at all, or maybe for like half the wipe, maybe, or something like that, you know, a really, really long period of time. We're going to have reduced hideout ammo crafts. We're going to have reduced rare loot. We're going to have like all of these other issues, the secure container restrictions and so on and so forth. I think these are here to stay, and I don't mind that. The limited item trader range, I could see this being a thing where you have to find the trader on the map itself, like mechanic and factory and so on and so forth. You have to find them in there to increase their trader level, and until then they're only level 1. I could see that being the future of Tarkov, and I wouldn't mind that. But like I said, it has to be in tandem with all of these other things that otherwise break the balance of the game. 100% boss spawn chance, really cool. I would actually love to see that again. I would love to see it with way reduced gear on the bosses. And they can beam you with, like, you know, dog shit gear. So, you know, having the bosses have dog shit gear is not a really big problem. And by dog shit, I mean, like, comparative. Like, I mean, like, you know, every boss has different gear kits. If you didn't know this, they do have different gear kits. So, you know, sometimes they'll spawn with level 4, sometimes they'll spawn with level 6. If they're all spawning with level 6, you can farm them all the time, which is basically what happened. But if they're spawning with level 4, level 3 armor, and so on and so forth, then it's a lot harder to get super strong, super meta gear with, like, you know, the best headset in the game, you know, the best, you know, pistol attachments, the best, like, rifle attachments and scopes and stuff in the game at 100% chance. Lower that chance for good gear and have the boss spawn chance super high, and you make the gameplay a lot more hardcore. And I wouldn't mind that. So I think this is what they're going to do, and I hope they listen to all the feedback, and I really hope they take it in. Also, why are we getting a survey like 2 months into the hardcore wipe? It's too late for a survey. They should have done this hardcore survey first week of the wipe. They should have done multiple surveys the first 3 weeks of the wipe. Every single week should have had a new survey. And, you know, if they're worried about, like, inflation of items for doing the survey, don't give us items for the survey. Give us, like, you know, dog shit items. Give us, like, you know, 10k rubles, 20k rubles, or whatever like that. I wouldn't even mind. I'm not doing the survey for the in-game items. I'm doing the survey because I care about the balance of the game, because I really enjoy Tarkov, and I want to see Tarkov succeed. And I want to have the magic of the early game of the wipe to last as long as possible. That's really it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's a very rambly video. It's jumping from topic to topic, but I think it's a very interesting one, and I think I really do like what BSG is trying to do with half of the things in the game. And the other major design flaws of the game, transitions, ref, boss spawns being 100% and having really good gear, things like that, kind of negate all of the good that the hardcore wipe was otherwise trying to do. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are still enjoying Tarkov. I'm playing every day, so, you know, probably like 1 or 2 raids only, but I am still playing every day. I really love the game. So, hopefully I'll catch you guys in raid and survive and kick ass. Catch you guys in the next video.